Hello, I'm Robert, and this time I want to talk about this really, really crazy thing that is scaring people now. And this one here. It's, as I say, it's batshit crazy, a bullshit idea. The claim is that freemasons, they're like a fraternity, about the oldest of fraternity clubs, as it were, and right back from the old stonemasons in medieval times. And they have secrets and rituals and things, and this leads to all sorts of rumours about them. But they're just a kind of club, really. Anyway, these if you're panicking about any of this, the first thing to do is to breathe in and out slowly. This makes a big difference, because your mind will not. If you just read one of these stories and you're panicking, then your mind will not be clear. And I've got this thing in here, so you breathe in, and then you wait for a bit, then you breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and just doing that a few times will calm your mind. And it's just an automatic physiological response of your body to slow breathing. And if you are really panicking, then try doing that for 10 or 20 minutes until you start to calm down. It's like your heart beating, you really feel really scared and panicking, and maybe you feel sick and so on. Try doing this, very slow breathing, and just do that for 10 or 20 minutes. And that works for nearly everyone. So I've got many other tips on this page. There's 8 tips there, and there's De-Stress Monday. That's a non-profit public health initiative associated with Johns Hopkins and Syracuse universities and Columbia universities, and they have this breathe with shape. They have another animation you can do, and they have lots of other things on that site that you can help with, and some videos. There's chair yoga and mindfulness exercise, and the 5-4-3-2-1 coping technique, and there's cognitive behaviour therapy, which is a thing that you can get help with from therapists. And there's some advice here on how you deal with these obsessive thoughts. And then another thing you do that is really worth, make sure you get enough sleep and so on. And then my 7 tips are really helpful for this sort of thing as well. I mean, look, it's just based on what helps people in the group. They've said these of all the things that people say, this is what helps us most. And so you've got to see it as nonsense and bullshit, so that I'm going to explain that. And then you'll probably still be very scared, and especially if you don't have a strong scientific background. So you just expect that, and this fear is going to keep coming back, and you can't stop yourself. People often try to say, I will stop myself thinking about this idea that Freemasons are going to kill everyone, all the white people north of the equator, on 3rd of November. You can't stop it. It'll keep coming back. Oh dear, they're all going to kill us all. Oh dear, they're going to kill us all. They're going to kill everyone else. It's just great. You can't stop it. So, but cognitive behaviour helps. And this thing here, a tip from a therapist that there's here, is that you just when this a therapist helped a friend who I talk about, who was concerned about these things on the internet, and she says that he told her that whenever an obsessive thought pops into my head, to not react to it. If it's scary, to not give it more power by thinking of it constantly. And it's a lot harder than it sounds, but it really does work. So you just let it be there, and you don't. It's a little bit like if a child comes into your room and you start shouting at it, then it'll start bawling. You just let this obsessive thought come up, and then just get on with things and doing breathing exercises, and just not react to it, and just let it be itself and get on with your things. And do see health professionals. Make sure you eat plenty. So health professionals can be really helpful. And there could be many reasons for being really scared. It doesn't mean that you're going mad. People can go to a health professional because they've had a bereavement, or they've been sacked, or sometimes moving a house, In this case, because you're believing a crazy conspiracy theory and you're really scared. And try to get plenty of sleep, and it all helps to think about something after the date of whatever it is, and continue with your everyday life. That's very important. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't shut up in your room and because you're so scared just spend hours searching on the internet and not even leave your room. Let's just keep on with all this stuff. And the number one thing is to stop reading whatever is feeding you. Don't go searching online for this thing once you know it's nonsense. And it can be very difficult to stop. In that case, just try it as an experiment. Let's see what happens if I don't. I feel really scared. I want to go online and search about this story that has scared me. What happens if I don't? For the next 2 hours, instead of going online and searching as I normally would, then do something that you enjoy, or just go and if you're afraid of leaving your house, go and stand outside in the garden for a few minutes or something. Just take baby steps if necessary. So that's how you deal with these things. And if you find you're spending an hour a day, hours every day, it can help to do a little diary. Not writing down what you do, but just saying, started searching at 10 o'clock, then 10 o'clock to 11 in the morning, I was searching for this, and you're from 2 to 5 and so on. And just take account of and getting an idea of how much time you're spending searching for this thing that scared you. It's the number one thing people do. When some idea gets into their mind, then they spend hours every day, and just most people seem to do that. Just searching for this thing obsessively online, reading and rereading, watching and watching, and looking for everything on it. And it just makes you more and more scared. That is not the way to do. But it's very difficult to stop, so just try an experiment. What if for the next hour I don't search, but do something else, even though I'm scared? Even though I'm very scared. And the thing is also to be well aware that being scared doesn't mean that the scared thing is going to happen. We're often scared of things like walking over those glass bridges in China. I mean, walking over a glass bridge will scare many people, but it's not. It doesn't mean it's a kind of enjoyable scary, which is why people do it. But it doesn't mean that you're in danger. And young children, they're often scared of their own shadow, and that doesn't mean that the shadow is dangerous to a young child. And many things we're scared of that aren't dangerous. So anyway, so back to that, back to our story. And you might wonder, someone who is not used to debunking and helping these people might wonder, how could anyone believe such a nonsensical thing? The thing to bear in mind is that the reason these stories go viral and get shared around the net is precisely because there's something in them that hooks into people's minds. And to people who are not vulnerable to this may look like just any other crazy thing, which for some reason doesn't go viral. But there's something in this story that has just managed to, it's called a meme. It hooks into people's minds. It's like a virus for a computer, which doesn't actually do any good to the computer, but it goes onto the computer and the systems in the computer reproduce it, even though it's actually not benefiting the computer at all. In the same way, an idea like this, a meme, it gets reproduced around the social web, even though it's not beneficial to the people who are reading it at all. And the fear causes, and it's not true and it's not valid, but it still goes viral, because it's got something in it that hooks into people's mind. So anyway, the story is, this chap claims that freemasons have a secret plan to kill all the white people north of the equator. And he says if you travel anywhere south of the equator on this date, and I'm not going to give the date because people find dates get into their mind, but if you click on this page and then you go to the end, I've got it, and most people in the group will know this date. I'll put it in the comment to this YouTube video after a lot of blank lines, so as to not have it in the title. So he says that if you travel here on that date, you will be safe. So if he was right, then you'd expect that all the people in the know in the Northern Hemisphere will be having massive plans, and there'll be millions of people travelling south of the equator on the 3rd of November, anyone who's become aware of this conspiracy. But that's not going to happen, because it's nuts. So, and so he claims that the Freemasons, and he doesn't explain why, he just says that Freemasons and the thing to be aware of is that Freemasons are for the most part white, and for the most part they live north of the equator. It's a club that started amongst the builders of medieval, what do they call them, cathedrals. and those were mainly built by white people north of the equator, and it has grown and grown, and it's sort of just the way it's spread. Most of the people who are Freemasons, I think even to this day, are white and live north of the equator. And so why would Freemasons, and including just about all the Freemasons are there. So why would they have a plan to kill everyone who's white who's north of the equator? I mean, it's such a nuts idea. He also says that Israel is safe because claims it's south of the equator, which shows that he is very geographically challenged because Israel is there, well north of the equator. And you sort of wonder, it seems that it's because it's so nuts even, the nuttiness of it seems to grab into people's mind. They try to make sense of it, and they sort of wonder, this has been shared virally, why are people sharing it virally when it's so nuts? It must mean something. It doesn't mean anything. People share things that are nuts. This is just nuts, it's just bullshit. So, they click to his things, I won't open them. And so, he's probably not crazy. I mean, if he actually believed this, he would be mad. But he's probably a bullshitter. And bullshitter is someone who just, all they care about is having their work shared, or being impressive. And they try all sorts of different things, and they find this hooks into people's minds, and they just say these words. And you get them in their everyday life, someone who claims to be a very impressive businessman or something, and he goes around talking about all his achievements, and he's not actually doing anything. He's just spouting words that are not anything that he's done, and they probably wouldn't even make any sense if you understood business. But he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care if it's false. He just says whatever it is that is impressive. And so a bullshitter, they don't care about truth, and they're not even lying. They're just using words that impress people. And so that's what this chap is, I think, almost certainly. Now, so to talk more about his idea, his claim is that Freemasons want to pretend to drop a nuclear bomb on the Space Needle in Seattle. And his main reason for this is that Space Needle is blown up in various movies, which he claims are the Freemasons putting clues into the movies of what they are about to do in the future. But of course, I mean, the Empire State Building is blown up, the Statue of Liberty, the Big Ben, White House. So why he picks on Seattle, then Seattle Space Needle? It's a rather minor thing. It's only not that many movies blow up the Space Needle in Seattle, but it's rather a striking object, and it does look striking in a movie. And then he's gone through all these movies, and he's found these numbers that recur, either 3 or 11 or 311 or 11 followed by 3, and he says that any of these means that it's going to be I shouldn't have said those numbers, I've said them now, oh dear. Anyway, you can get a date out of those numbers. Anyway, so he now says that and he says that they are not actually going to drop a nuclear bomb, they're going to pretend to drop a nuclear bomb, and they're going to do that as a false flag operation to pretend to start a nuclear war with Russia or Iran or North Korea. But he says that these Freemasons control the entire world, so they control the governments of Russia and Iran and North Korea and everyone. And so they're not actually going to start a nuclear war. The US is not going to respond because they control the US government, according to him. Trump is controlled by them. He's not going to start a war because he's going to know perfectly well that they have this plan to kill all white people north of the equator, and he'll be on board with it. Presumably, the idea is that Trump and all his retinue will be flying south of the equator on that date. I mean, it's such a nuts idea. And he says so. But in order to persuade everyone that something's really happening, he says they're going to use a secret heat ray weapon from space, presumably, that is going to burn Seattle and kill all the white people there. And it only kills white people, and it doesn't kill coloured people or dark people for some reason. So this is a really science fiction, totally silly idea. And I mean, they're just so strange. And that anyone actually believes this. And has found this credible, but it seems to hook into people's mind. And so he says that it's going to destroy Seattle, and then, having created this illusion that the nuclear war is about to start because that the Russians have hit Seattle, they're going to claim that it was a Russian submarine or a North Korean one or a Chinese one that fired it from off the coast of the United States. And the North Korean subs can't get anywhere near the United States. Anyway, and then they just don't have the range. And then he says they're going to immediately follow that by having a pretend nuclear war over the entire Northern Hemisphere, which is not going to be a real nuclear war either, because they don't want to make the Northern Hemisphere radioactive. This is what he says. And it's just going to be a secret heat ray. So why they bothered to pretend it was a nuclear war in the first place, since all the people who are going to be killed, who are going to be killed anyway by the secret heat ray. So that doesn't make sense. And all the people who are south of the equator, they're obviously going to know that it wasn't a nuclear war, because there won't be any radiation. So I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's, I hope some of you are beginning to think that there's something a little bit unusual, something a little bit wrong with this idea. And it's partly because he says it with such conviction. But if you listen to this, I'll try, yes, I think I'm on edit. Yeah, let's do this properly. I'm going to try and play that. Oh no, there we are. It's if I click through to there, then watch Elliot in the YouTube video for it's 3 minutes 11.
And there's a knock on your door, and a man comes, a grown man, not your brother. And he's from
I'll skip through a bit. I'll skip through a bit to where he starts crying.
And I am empowered to take that alien with me.
But you can't take him away, he's mine.
Well, but the government is bigger than you are, Elliot. And I have all the authority to take him, and I gotta tell you, I'm gonna take him.
You can't take him.
Well, I'm afraid I have to, son.
You can't take him away, he's mine!
But it's not my choice. The president asked me to come here to get him.
I don't care what the president says, he's my best friend! And you can't take him away!
Well, it's real possible, Elliot, that he'll come back, and you can have him again. But we just want to talk to him and see where he came from, and try to find out about other planets. And he probably is the key to a lot of things that we have to know.
But how do I know you're going to bring him back?
Well, I'm afraid, son, I can't guarantee it.
I think he's afraid of you.
That may be true, but the government tells me what to do, and I just follow their orders.
Well, he's mine, and he lives with me, and he likes me. And he wants to stay here. He likes it here.
Well, we wouldn't hurt him or anything. All we want to do is talk to him.
But I don't want you to take him away.
I've had to talk to your mom about it, and she knows that the government has the right to do it.
And who told you all this?
Well, we learned about it. We know that he's somewhere around here. I mean, I do have a search warrant. I could look around the house.
Tell me, keep the eye. Right. Tell me.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you let me talk to him for 5 minutes, I'll tell my boss that you can keep him. Would that be okay with you, if I could just talk to him for 5 minutes? Would you feel better then? Would you be happy if you could keep him if all I had to do was talk to him for 5 minutes? That might make your whole day, huh? Might make your whole life, huh? And then he'd be your friend forever. And I wouldn't take him away. Okay, Elliot.
Okay, kid, you got the job.
Yeah, see the smile at the end. That was all fake. Well, it was acting. So this chap, he sounds very convincing on his video, but it's just a voice act. He's probably just voice. I don't think he can believe it. He's just voice acting, like Henry Thomas in his audition for Elliot. He wasn't upset there. He was just acting upset. And to the extent that he was crying and tears rolling down his cheek and off his chin. So that's what happens. These people are faking you by voice acting. He didn't even have to put anything on his face. He just voice acted it. And so anyway, here's all the other things. And he talks about the apparent. He says that one of his reasons for saying it's true is the Simpsons episode in which they had an episode poked fun at Freemasons. There's a Simpson episode that pokes fun at rubber ducks. So does that mean that it was made by that Simpsons? And he claims that means that Simpsons is made by a Freemason, and it's no more made by a Freemason. It's made by rubber ducks, and that's his claim. And what else do you need to look? Yeah, this is his evidence of a heat weapon, this alleged heat weapon, these fires in California. And if you look at that, it does seem quite striking that the trees there in the fires, the leaves on the top didn't burn, and the rest of the houses did. And so, but then why would a heat ray from space only burn the houses and not the trees? Surely it would burn the trees as well. That doesn't make sense. And the actual reason is because the trees have this bark around them, which is just the trees. California has many fires every year. It's nothing to do with humans. It's been like since before there were humans. There were fires there, and the trees there have evolved in order to work well with fires. They have this bark that flakes off very easily. It's very dry. That burns very hot and quickly, and the fire is soon over. And it burns so quickly and so hot that the fire goes on to the next tree and doesn't go up the trunk. And when these trees just survive and the fires go through, and except the really worst fires, then the fires just go through at the bottom, and the tops of the trees stay fine. And that's why these trees, they'll just continue growing after the fire. And so some of these trees will only reproduce if they've been burnt. The cones have to open up. The cones are stay tight, and they don't release their seeds unless a fire burns the cones. That might seem rather a strange thing to do, but the point is that when you have a fire, it makes clearings and it burns down old trees and things, and the little seedlings, then that's the best time for them to grow. So the cones only open when there's a fire. And so I've got some more about all this, but hopefully this is enough to you can see that. And there's so the heat rays, they just don't exist, because if we had heat rays like that, the US would of course use them in a war by now. Nobody's ever used a heat ray in war. We do have directed energy weapons and research into it. We do have infrared things, lasers and things, but they don't work like that. There seem to be big technical difficulties preventing actually getting it all the way to setting up fires in a distance like they claim. And so it's no plan, and then people worry about nuclear weapons. Don't worry about that, because we actually do have a thing about that. We're actually in the direction of World War III. We're going in the opposite direction of World War III. So do have a read of that. And Trump can't order a nuclear attack. And all the nuclear nations, they have safety measures of one sort or another to prevent, actually, especially big ones like Russia and China and the United States. They have Trump can't press a literal button. He has to tell a general, and a general will just refuse any attempt to start a nuclear war in peacetime, because that's going against all the it's even carpet bombing a city, which used to be considered acceptable in the past, but it's now completely against. It's the four legal principles of armed warfare. And a general would refuse an order to do carpet bombing too, such as they used to do for Vietnam and before then. And he would certainly refuse an order to drop a nuclear bomb in peacetime. And General Keller explains that in this. He explained that in testimony to the White House, to the Senate, about how they assume that what Trump says is valid, because that's the presumption. But if he tells them to do something illegal, then they will refuse it in peacetime, and you get the lawyers in on both sides, and Trump will get his lawyers and the general will get his lawyers. And if Trump tried to push it through, then eventually it ends up in the Congress, and they have to decide it. So, and then I just have a reminder, and this is the original image of Batshit crazy. Where is it? S. Muller. You can click through and see his image, and full-blown batshit crazy and still holding down a productive job. That's what this chap is, that you've all got scared by. Okay, so that's it.